Hello and welcome to Silverstone for the latest encounter of the Tegiwa BMW M3 Cup. Now joining them on track this weekend is the MTEC Brakes BMW 330 Challenge. But let's have a look at the M3s first. On pole position we've got Tom Collier, followed by Paul Cook. Very experienced driver, he races in the MR2 Championship, so he's very familiar with rear wheel drive racing. He's one to watch. So with that, it's a greasy track out there, so it could get interesting. Here's Andy McEwen with race one.
Thank you, Anthony. Cars lining up on the grid as followed, with Championship leader Tom Collier on pole alongside Paul Cook. Then it's Sheng-Ping Guan and David Whitmore on row 2 ahead of Graham Crowhurst, Nick Williamson, Wayne Lewis and Julian McBride. The leading 330 Cup cars, Matt Maxted and Darren Ball. Matt Maxted, who has more wins than anyone else in that class, is on pole position. The lights are out though, and for the first time this weekend the Tegiwa M3 Cup and the MTEC Brakes 330 Challenge are away, and up the inside line it is Paul Cook who will take the lead down towards the first corner. Tom Collier, the championship leader, slots in line in second. Then the Tegiwa livery car of Sheng-Ping Guan is in third as they drop down into the braking zone at Village now, and Sheng there defending the inside line. Got the white and green car in there as well of David Whitmore. He's actually slipped down the order slightly. Wayne Lewis there in the khaki coloured car that we are now on board with was alongside. On the outside line into the link though, and tried to turn in, but still up the inside was David Whitmore. So David Whitmore and Wayne Lewis will run side by side for the first time down the famous Hangar Straight. Wheel to wheel they will go. But at the front of the field it's the two black and yellow cars leading the way. Paul Cook ahead of Tom Collier. It's side by side for third place. Diving up the inside line then I think was Graham Crowhurst trying to find a way past Sheng-Ping Yuan. Did he manage to make that one work? They're still side by side. Still also side by side are Wayne Lewis and David Whitmore. Whitmore going through for third position. It is still side by side and it will be Ping Yuan who holds on to the position. Crowhurst not able to get through on this occasion, but then he gets a better run through club up the inside line into the second apex at the right-hander, and he will now go through. So Graham Crowhurst gets himself onto the podium, runs way wide over the curbs on the exit of the corner though, and will run the risk of incurring the wrath of the clerk of the course if he keeps exceeding the track limits like that. So this four-way fight for third streaks through Abbey Corner for the first time of asking in the M3 Cup element of the race. There are two classes, the M3 Cup and the 330 Challenge. The 330 Challenge is not a championship yet, but hopefully will become one for next season. But for the time being, the only cars scoring points are those at the front of the field. The more powerful, the better aerodynamically, more aerodynamically efficient M3 Cup cars. Drop down towards Vale, the link, sorry, and there was a car in the gravel there. I thought I saw waved yellow flags. That, I believe, might well be Matt Maxted. It's either Matt Maxted or Chris Graham, neither of whom came through at the end of lap number 1, both of them running in the 330 Challenge element of the race. And indeed there we can see it is Matt Maxted. Well, he was certainly one car involved because he has a crumpled front right corner on board with Wayne Lewis, with a grandstand view of this third place battle that's still raging on. Graham Crowhurst, who was out-qualified by Sheng-Ping Yuan, and Sheng has lost the position in the early stages here, but he was third on the grid. Crowhurst was fifth, so Crowhurst really making some ground because he's also found a way past David Whitmore there, the white and green car, who didn't appear to get a great start. So as they stream back through at the end of the second lap, it is the black car making all of the moves here, Crowhurst. But now, can he pull away from the cars behind, or is he going to continue to be challenged? Well, it looks like it's going to be the second of those options because he's very sideways there through Farm and into the braking zone at Village, where Sheng-Ping Yuan almost gets back up the inside line. Can't do it though, so these four cars continue to circulate in very close proximity though. This is the kind of racing the M3 Cup, the Tegiwa M3 Cup, has been providing since its inception a couple of seasons ago. Always close racing, affordable way of going racing in some very, very high performance BMWs. These are some of the highest performance BMWs you'll see racing anywhere in the UK. And a splendid sight they make as well. This close together on the circuit as Sheng-Ping Yuan again goes up the inside of Graham Crowhurst into Stowe, and again is denied the opportunity to retake that third position. Back with Wayne Lewis at the back of this quartet of cars. He makes his way down towards the braking zone again. Sheng-Ping Yuan having a look at the inside, can't go through there. What about at club? Can he do to David Whitmore, to Graham Crowhurst what Graham Crowhurst did to him a few laps ago? The answer is no, and in fact it is Whitmore who closes in onto the tail now of Sheng-Ping Yuan. The leaders come back through with the gap going up now between Paul Cook and Tom Collier. Paul Cook, who's only 5th in the championship, is some 70 points off the championship lead. Tom Collier's not going to worry too much about that. Tom arrives here in the championship lead to the tune of 30 points over Nick Williamson, who I haven't actually seen in this race. He did start, in theory, from 6th on the grid, but I haven't seen him feature at the front of the field. As this is all getting very dicey here, this fight for third position. Here are the 330 Cup cars, and what I believe is the battle for the race lead with the white car of Darren Ball at the head of this little group. Then you've got the red and silver of Bill Redrop, and then the black and turquoise car next in line. And that is all part of this very, very entertaining. In fact, yes, that is the black and turquoise car, I think, of actually Nick Williamson, who's running in the M3 Cup element of the race, but has dropped down the order and doesn't appear to have the pace, does he? Yes, there you can see that is the number 11 car of Nick Williamson, and there's smoke from the rear of it, so that might possibly, no mechanic, but that might possibly be the reason for his lack of pace in this race. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, there's no lack of pace. There's also no lack of commitment as the four-way fight for the bottom step of the podium negotiates Abbey and Farm once again, and it's still Zhengping Yuan who feels that he should be at the head of this group, but whilst trying to attack Graham Crowhurst, he's also busy defending from Nick Williamson. He runs a bit wide there, though, and Nick gets up the inside and goes through, and Wayne Lewis might be able to follow him as well, gets up the inside into the link, and that was a good bit of opportunistic driving there from Wayne Lewis, but he runs a bit wide on the exit. Now, there were yellow flags out at that part of the circuit, and I wonder whether maybe that might lead to a discussion post-race. We'll have to wait and see. Zhengping Yuan is coming back at Wayne Lewis anyway, so it might be irrelevant if he can find a way back through, but still, that is a big no-no overtaking into the yellow flags. On board with Wayne Lewis, and yep, there goes Zhengping Yuan back up the inside. Wayne tries the over-under, tries to get the better exit from the corner, but can't do that. Now, what about the braking zone at Vale? It's one of the better overtaking opportunities on the circuit, but no, there's no way up the inside. And so Wayne Lewis stays at the back of the group, but that possibly is for the best, because it may well have got meant that he gets away with having a penalty for overtaking the yellow flags. So back out of club they go. That has just split that little pack up ever so slightly for the time being. Graham Crowhurst escaping now slightly from Nick Williamson in 4th. Then this fight for 5th between Ping Yuan and a sideways Wayne Lewis, who didn't quite get into the corner right then at Abbey. You can see there are a few raindrops on the camera lenses. That's because we have got some drizzle in the air. There's been some overnight rain as well. There have been 1 or 2 races already this morning that have dried up the track. Certainly on the racing line, there's the odd damp patch offline, which could make overtaking challenging. That's particularly been the case in this race so far. Lots of good overtaking manoeuvres been made, particularly amongst these 4 cars, who are once again heading down the Hangar Straight. But that ever-present, even, threat of rain is certainly going to be on the minds of the drivers here in this race. There goes Crowhurst, turning his way through. See how well sorted these cars are with race brakes and aerodynamic aids on the cars, which up the performance. The M3 Cup cars are a bit more expensive to run than the MTEC Brakes 330 Challenge cars, but as I said, comparatively speaking, both very, very affordable ways of going tin-top racing. But they are fighting quite hard for it. They're not really holding each other up sufficiently that they're losing time to the cars behind. If anything, they're actually catching slightly Tom Collar in front. So if they were to leave each other alone, or indeed if Whitmore could get through, he may well be able to, if he's the quicker of the two, pull them up to the second place car of Collar. They're running out of time now. There are only a couple of minutes left on the clock, so realistically it's all about third place for these 2 drivers, but they've got decent pace in this second half of the race, that's for sure. Link again into the right-hander, very tricky downhill. You can see again it's hard to pick out that apex, and you let the car run way, way wide. The track limits rule down there is only enforced by the white line at the extreme edge of the track, so you can run right out over the sort of the exit of the Grand Prix circuit there, right up to the curb. As long as you don't go over the curb, and you really have to be trying to go over that curb, then you should be able to get away without exceeding the track limits. Side by side again, down into Vale, and this time, well, this is a bit more interesting. This is David Whitmore trying the outside line now. He's tried the inside at most parts of the circuit. He's now trying the outside line on the way into Vale, hoping that that will force a bit of a stumble out of Graham Crowhurst and maybe force a mistake and maybe make him run wide through club. It didn't work though, and so as the leaders go through onto what should be the final lap of the race, it is Paul Cook who leads the way. Tom Collar in 2nd position, 3rd place for Graham Crowhurst, and 4th for David Whitmore. Is that the order in which they're going to finish though? this lead gap is coming down slightly. Actually, on the previous lap, we saw Tom Collar set a lap that was faster than Paul Cook. Paul Cook has the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 15.5, and I presume is just sort of managing this to the end, but you can see there that Tom Collar is getting a bit larger in his wing mirrors. Then that fight for third, that's definitely going down to the last corner. We are only half a lap away though from the checkered flag, and it doesn't look yet as though David Whitmore has been able to prise the door open. Can he find something special in the last couple of corners to get this third place away? Through Stowe they go. Back down towards Vale. Again, the car just doesn't seem to want to hold on to the apex, does it? At the front of the field, though, no such issues for Paul Cook, who I think is just coasting this one home. And he is about to come through and score his third win of the season in the Tegiwa M3 Cup. He comes out of the final corner, he sees the checkered flag and wins race one here on the Silverstone International Circuit. Windscreen wipers on there for Tom Collar in second place. Third place was Graham Crowhurst. He fended off Dave Whitmore with Sheng-Ping Yuan, Wayne Lewis and Julie McBride rounding out the M3s. David Drinkwater took a comfortable victory in the 330s ahead of Darren Ball and Bill Redrop, then Nick Williamson, Paul Hudson, Dinas Dabraskas with Chris Graham and Matt Maxted, the two non-finishers.
Good race. I had a real good start, which is probably the first time I've had a real good start. Pipped Tom to the first corner and put my head down and tried to sort of get as much as a gap as I could early on, if it's possible, just in case it rained, because Tom's a dab hand in the way.
Tom, firstly, you've got to be happy with second place, but you didn't rain dance all through that, weren't you?
Yeah, a bit I was. Got a bit of a poor start, so yeah, Paul got ahead. Felt like I was going to be able to keep with him, but unfortunately he's had a little bit more pace, got the gap, and then towards the end, I started to gain on him, and yeah, that little bit of drizzle on the last lap, I was thinking, here we go. But yeah, never mind, one of those. Second place is a good result.
Race number 2 here at Silverstone for the Tegiwa M3 Cup, and the MTEC Brakes 330 Challenge is about to get underway. Tom Collar and Paul Cook once more make up the front row ahead of David Whitmore and Graham Crowhurst. Sheng-Ping Yuan, Nick Williamson, Wayne Lewis and Julie McBride round out the M3s, with Matt Maxted and Darren Ball on the front row for the 330s. Lights go on, lights will go out after quite a long hold. Now, and away we go. Now remember, in race 1, Tom Collar did not convert pole position into the lead into turn 1. Let's see if that's the case again this time. It is the case again this time, as Paul Cook goes up the inside and once more moves in front. Second place for Collar, and into third place comes David Whitmore, who's had another really good start there, the white and green car, and he moves up into third position ahead of Graham Crowhurst. Now remember, the bulk of race 1, we were following those two fighting over third place. It was Crowhurst in front, and despite the fact I think it was a bit quicker, there was just no way through for David Whitmore. Well, this time around, he's got through right at the start of the race. The 330s come through, and it looks to me as though Darren Ball has the class lead, and down to third place for David Drinkwater. Actually, that at the very start, he started third in class. His qualifying pace not brilliant, but he has been winning races left, right and centre this year. On board with Julie McBride going up the Hanger Straight, as the leaders much more closely bunched this time around than they were at the start of race 1. Head through Stowe Corner for the first time, with Paul Cook leading the way. Tom Collar in second, McBride up the inside of Sheng-Ping Yuan, who runs very wide over the curbs, coming out of the high-speed right-hander. Up the road, we've got Wayne Lewis attacking Graham Crowhurst for fourth position, trying to go around the outside at Vale to get the inside for Club, and it nearly worked. He had to back out of it though, took to the curbs as well. The car got slightly airborne, and that really loses in momentum through the second part of the corner and allows Sheng-Ping Yuan to close in. Leads across the line though, and it is definitely going to be Cook that leads the way. Collar in second, third place then for Whitmore. Fourth is Crowhurst, fifth is Lewis, sixth is Ping Yuan, and seventh place for Julian McBride. So again, it's Nick Williamson, unfortunately, who had mechanical dramas in race 1. The man who was second in the points coming into this race. Well, he lost that position to David Whitmore in race 1, and he looks set to lose even more ground here in race 2, because the car still does not appear to be running at full speed. Leaders, though, down through the link in towards Chapel Corner. This tight right-hander out onto the Grand Prix circuit again. On board with a sideways Julie McBride, who looks like he's having to work hard to keep up with the pack here. He is at the tail end of that leading group there in 7th position. Tom Collar, though, is going with Paul Cook this time around, so this gives me hope that we'll have a bit more of a competitive race at the very front of the field this time around, because in race 1, Tom Collar simply couldn't keep up with Paul Cook's pace. Paul got the lead from the outside of row 1. and really never looked back. Well, he's done the first part of that again this time around, but is he going to be able to do the second and pull off into a comfortable lead? Something that definitely is not going to make life comfortable is the weather, because it's starting to rain again. We've had a change of lead meanwhile in the 330s, and that is way up onto the curb. Matt Maxted, who's got past Darren Ball and has taken over the race lead. Darren Ball in turn is under pressure from David Drinkwater, and not far behind him is the silver and red car of Bill Redrop, so a 4-car fight for the lead in the 330 element of the race. And again, this is a whole lot more competitive than it was in race number 1, so the action already hotting up, even though the weather is possibly starting to cool down and get even more inclement as the day goes on. Very sideways there for Matt Maxted, who's all out of control, almost going through farm and into village. Running way wide is Darren Ball, and that will open the door for David Drinkwater to go on the inside and take second place away, surely. David Drinkwater will have the inside line down the hill and should be able to move through. Yes, he does eventually, but Darren Ball made life difficult, tried to stay with him around the outside, and that's just given a small advantage now to Matt Maxted, who is a 4-time winner already this year. Remember, he has won more races than anyone else in the class. 4 wins for him, 3 for David Drinkwater, and 2 for Darren Ball. Well, Darren Ball is trying to go back around the outside of Drinkwater, but these are the 3 top drivers within the MTEC Brakes 330 Challenge. They don't score points, remember, yet this year, but they certainly do put on some great racing. Down the hill, Darren Ball might have a go at the inside, but no, opts out of that one because Drinkwater was desperately late on the brakes, but just about got the car stopped. Through the right hand they go. There's a new sausage curb on the outside there at the first part of club to try and deal with track limits offenders. Seems to be doing the job, because so far we've seen anyone who runs over that curve has really lost quite a bit of ground. Right, here's the 3rd place battle, and it's battle resumed now between David Whitmore and Graham Crowhurst, but it is Whitmore in front this time and trying to fend off Crowhurst. Crowhurst, of course, was doing all of the defending in race number 1, but they've also been joined by Wayne Lewis, whose qualifying pace was about 1.5 seconds off the pace of Whitmore and Crowhurst, just less than 1.5 seconds. But in the race, he's staying with them. Wipers on still there, you can see, for Tom Collar in 2nd position, although he is the only car in the lead group that has their windscreen wipers on. So if it is raining, it's not that heavy, although quite often the drivers will coat the windscreens with Rain-X, and that will allow them to be able to run in at least light rain conditions without having to put the windscreen wipers on. Back out of club they will go again, and 3rd place battle. They just had to pull away now slightly from Wayne Lewis and Sheng Ping Guan. We sort of saw this from Wayne in race 1, that the pace was there to start with and then just started to slip back, and this time he's slipping into the clutches of this man, Sheng Ping Guan, who is looking to try and move up into what would be 5th position. The leaders are getting ever further apart. Paul Cook is pulling away from Tom Collar at the moment. You can see the extra spots of rain on the camera up there at Village. But at the moment it's not creating too much of a problem for the drivers, although they will have to be careful if it gets any heavier. But debris there off at the side of the road as well. Not quite sure where that's come from. I don't think it's come from one of the M3 cars. I think that's come from one of the 330 Challenge cars. Down towards Stowe. Decent overtake opportunity, but these cars, of course, with their big rear wings and their front splitters, they do stop quite well. And, well, it looks as though Graham Crowhurst's car stops better than anyone's, because that was a really late lunge up the inside of David Whitmore, and he takes 3rd place, but Whitmore comes back at him now at the inside down towards Vale and gets his car back in front. Brilliant racing between the 2 of them, and it's Whitmore who's back onto the podium. But Graham Crowhurst, well, he must have thought he had that all done then with a tremendous move up the inside. Here is the fight for 2nd in the 330s. It's still Matt Maxted ahead of Darren Ball. Flames spitting there from the back of Darren Ball's car. You can see that it is optional to fit the rear wing on the 330 Challenge cars. Oh, what's going on there? Darren Ball runs out wide over the curb. Oh, the front right suspension, or the steering arm, has failed, and that is very odd indeed, because the car was going around the corner, albeit a bit wide, but I don't think that's what caused that. And then all of a sudden, plumes of smoke and Darren Ball out of the race. So Ball is out and becomes our first retirement of the race, and that's a real shame, because we were enjoying that battle he was having with Matt Maxted. That leaves Maxted now all on his own, 2nd place in the 330 Challenge. There goes Chris Graham going a lap down. He's also in the 330 element of the race, albeit a little lonely. Darren Ball vacates the scene. Now that car is in, I would say, potentially a dangerous position. We'll have to wait and see whether they choose to throw a safety car, or at this late stage of the race, you'd have to suggest maybe it would make more sense just to red flag it. It's really hurt Graham Crowhurst, though, because he caught Chris Graham's car to put a lap on it in the yellow flags, and you are not allowed to overtake, even if it's just to put a lap on someone. You're not allowed to overtake under yellow flags, and so he had no choice but to sit behind the clearly slower 330 challenge car for a couple of corners until they were out of the yellow flag zone, and he was able to then make the move stick. Speaking of trying to make the move stick, that's an odd place to try and make a move, but Sheng Ping Wan is doing his best to find a way past Wayne Lewis here for what is 4th position. Sheng Ping Yuan also in his first appearance of the year, finished in 5th in race 1. He's 5th at the moment in race 2 as well, so he'd like to make that a 4th place to show some sort of improvement as the day has gone on. Of course, Wayne Lewis finished 6th in race 1, so he's already doing better than that with 4th place in this one. But Tom Collar, well, he's catching them, but not all that rapidly, it has to be said. You can see him in the background, but he's not really racing up to the back of this group, so Tom Collar may not be able to improve upon 6th place, which would be definitely his worst finish of the year so far. His previous worst having been a 5th last time out, in fact, at Brands Hatch. In fact, no, I tell a lie, he had a 5th and a 6th last time out, so this looks like it's going to count as one of his 3 drop scores, and he won't really have another one to go, so this could be an issue. Anyway, the leaders go through. Final lap begins for Paul Cook, who turns his way back through Abbey Corner. No pressure now after the demise of Tom Collar, although it must be said that Paul was pulling away from Tom anyway, as he did in race 1. So Paul Cook proving he's got the speed, and as I said, with drop scores, the championship gets an awful lot tighter, so he is still a championship contender, and if he can keep winning races at this rate, he could potentially be a championship winner come Snetterton at the end of the season. See there David Whitmore in the background, he's likely to be in the championship equation as well come the final rounds of the year. Can't count out Tom Collar, because although this race hasn't gone to plan, he'll be able to count it as one of his dropped scores. It just sort of puts him on a bit of a knife edge now for the rest of the season. He can't afford a non-finish or another bad race, because then all of a sudden he starts to have to count some of these bad finishes. Anyway, the leaders are down through Stowe, or the leader on his own is down through Stowe, and has only 2 corners between himself and a double race victory. And that honour is going to go, by the looks of it, to Paul Cook, who rounds Club Corner, and car number 26, a beautifully turned out car it is too, will take the checkered flag for the 2nd race here at Silverstone. David Whitmore gets some really important championship points in 2nd position. 3rd for Graham Crowhurst, 4th Wayne Lewis, and 5th for Tom Collar, with Sheng Ping Yuan and Julie McBride rounding out the M3s. David Drinkwater wins the 330s, ahead of Matt Maxted and Bill Redrop, then Chris Graham, Nick Williamson, Dinas Dabrauskas and Paul Hudson, whilst Darren Ball was the only non-finisher of the race.
Paul, it was vital to get that gap, 2-car gap, let them squabble behind you, and you just managed it from there. Well done.
Yeah, it was, I say, good start again, which I'm not very good at, but managed the 2nd time today. Managed to create a gap between me and Tom, a little 2-3 car gap, and yeah, after 2 or 3 laps, I looked in the mirror and it just disappeared. I didn't know it could have been up the inside of me. I was looking around and looked in the rearview mirror, and he'd obviously span out or had a mechanical problem, but yeah.
David, what a race. Firstly, congratulations. It wasn't easy. Talk us through it.
No, it was actually a really good race. I really enjoyed that. I had a great battle with Matt and Darren, the 3 of us, for a good 3, 4, 5 laps, whatever it was. It was just in and out all the time and swapping positions, and it was brilliant.
And over to you, Matt. You pushed him all the way, didn't quite get there in the end, but you got to be happy with 2nd.
Yeah, I'm happy. In the first race, you know, we had a bit of damage with Chris, and took me out of the race on the 3rd corner. So just to get 2nd after all the damage we had, it's great. But didn't have the pace. You know, David head and shoulders faster in that race. You know, it's good, because now coming into the next round, we don't know who's going to have it, and it'll lead to some racing than whoever we are next.